studying the field you've chosen, you'll be a national expert in that field in 5 years or less. And I thought, now, that actually works. One day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, 5 years, 1,250 hours on one topic? Yeah. And the more narrow the topic, the more you would advance. There's not accounting, it's cost accounting. It's not cost accounting, it's cost accounting in the construction industry. Not just the construction industry, lumber. You know, I mean, you'd be the world's leading expert on that, or one of them, in less than 5 years.
Hey everyone, it is the Relaunch podcast, and you know what happens to me when I have somebody come onto the show that I've been thinking about. I've been looking at all of the information that is out there on this individual, and I just keep having more and more questions that I know are going to be so incredibly impactful for you to hear his answers. The person I'm talking to, what a career he has had and he continues to dominate in. Jim Cathcart is the past president of the National Speakers Association. He is the author of 25 books. He is the Speaker Hall of Fame. He is Sales and Marketing Hall of Fame. He is a top 1% TEDx speaker, and you have to go check it out because if you haven't seen it, 2.6 million viewers have. And he's a mentor to experts and entrepreneurs. And today he is going to absolutely give us tangible takeaways on how you can be elevating and impacting more people. Jim, so good to have you.
That's a great setup. Thank you. I'm ready to roll.
Well, you know what? It's a great setup because when you hear all of the accolades, all the things you've done, I mean, guru status isn't even enough for you. There's so much wisdom. I feel like, maybe this should be a 10-part series I'm doing on you. So let's get started because I want to jump right away into I wouldn't even say it's your most significant relaunch, but for our audience that really wants to kind of understand how to be able to get on stages, be able to captivate, to be able to understand the process behind it, you actually had to completely redefine a lot of the life you had on stages when COVID hit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can you share with us, again, I want people to be able to understand what can they do now?
Well, in 2020, I was just coming into a year where I had about $270,000 worth of speaking engagements booked in China, mainland China. All of them dried up overnight, gone. I had, for the last 5 years, 2015 to 2019, December, I had been touring China on lecture tours, as many as in 2019. I did 6 round trips from the United States to mainland China for 71 days total in country that year. And I spoke in 23 major cities over that time to tens of maybe hundreds of thousands of people live. It was like the big Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone events, huge audiences of excited people, spotlights and music, and wow, like Rocky Balboa, and I'd come in, and I had an entourage of security protecting me from the audience because they literally did want to, take souvenirs and get selfies with me. And so
you're like a rock star. You're out there. You're like, this is so big.
I've experienced that before. Right. I've been successful and gotten a lot of big awards and all that, but I'd never been a rock star. And over there, it wasn't rock star, it was God, with a small G. But they treated me like a deity. And I messed with them because when they would bring me into the room with all these security people, they expected, the royal march. And so we would start into the room and everybody's screaming and cheering, and they're all trying to get a selfie with me as I go by. And as soon as I saw that my security detail was in a rhythm, I would take off running. Boom, 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 boom.
No, you went off.
I did. In a suit and tie, I'm going for the stage as if I'm in a sprint to get away from a bear. And they're going, oh no, Master has taken off. We must catch up. And they're holding hands with each other. And they run down the aisle sideways trying to catch up with.
Terrible. You are terrible that you did that.
But I had so much fun.
A lot of people to take away years of their life because of that.
I can literally show you that if you would like to see a video of it.
Oh my God, you have to send it to me after the show. This is too good. But all of a sudden, you have this massive success, and you've had it for years and years and years. You have all these engagements, and all of a sudden, it's literally done.
So
and you don't know how long. You don't know how far. I mean, it could be a month. It could be years. And so, what goes through your mind?
Well, the first thing was the same thing that went through my mind at 9/11 in 2001. I realized that morning, after I saw the news in California of what was happening in New York, I realized this could be World War III. It could be as bad as World War II, where everything shut down and the only thing any citizen does is feed the war effort. So I thought, okay, my career is gone for now because they aren't going to hold conventions. How can I be a professional speaker and do anything meaningful? This was 2001. Nobody had Zoom. And I said, well, what do I know that could contribute to the survival of the United States? I know leadership. I know how to teach leadership at the ground level, how to teach people with no experience and no credentials and no power, how to organize a project, how to find resources, how to motivate volunteers, and how to get things done. I can show them how to lead meetings, how to be a good follower, how to set goals, all those kind of things. So how do I do that? And I reached out and I got Pepperdine University, Cal State Channel Islands, California Lutheran University, Ventura County Sheriff's Department, the Reagan Presidential Library, the Boys and Girls Clubs of that area. And I got them all together for a summit. And I said, let's all join hands and share resources and teach people without power how to lead, because we need each other. And we don't know if we can even have gasoline to travel 30, 40 miles. And they all said, okay, we're in. And so we did a series of training programs that ended up, after things got better again, extended for 3 or 4 years. I called it the 101, Highway 101 Leaders Alliance. And so I was thinking at the beginning of COVID, I got to reinvent. So notice this.
Mm-hmm. Start up again, me. Love that. I often say you're the CEO of you. So let's make it the best company you've ever seen and had.
So I said, okay, what do people need? Well, first off, they need the same things they needed before COVID, but now they're not able to even go down the street because the store is not open, nor is the restaurant, nor is the movie theater, nor is it okay to get together with friends, because in California, they were telling us, wear a mask at the dinner table with your own family. What? So people are afraid. All right, good. I will be available to them to rethink their entire career, their lifestyle, their major goals, and their choices. And so I did. I organized a 3-month-long program that I call Going Pro. And at first I called it startupagain.me, but I changed the title to the Going Pro Experts Academy. And so it's a 3-month or a 12-month process. And I've done 4 of those now. And we meet every week for an hour to 90 minutes on Zoom. And then within that 3-month period, now we get together here in Austin, Texas, where I live, and do a 2.5-day mastermind. And then some people drop out of that and others renew for the year because they want to earn a CPE, which is Certified Professional Expert from Cathcart. And then that ends with a summit at the end of the year, which is an additional mastermind, longer, and probably going to be in La Jolla Shores, a community in Southern California we both know and love.
Yeah. So, Jim, let me go back here, though, because something that you said, first off, you had a career, you were at the top 1%. It's shut down. You have to literally, what I call, do a massive relaunch.
Yeah.
You had had some of this happen in the foresight during 9/11 that now you're like, what can I do? And you chose to create a Zoom online program, a 3-month, as you said, or you can continue on.
And by the way, at the beginning of it, I hired a guy that does that to teach me his method. So I spent several $1,000s with him just learning how to do what he was doing.
And you know what? You are a man after my own heart, because that is what I always talk about with 3HQ, head, heart, higher self. The higher self is really that best version of you. It's your growth zone. And if you want to have accelerated growth, time is something we don't want to waste. And so being able to go out and find those experts that can help, because you weren't an online expert, but yet you went out, you found the right person. And what did you, if people are listening right now and hearing that how long did it take you to actually come out with your online course? Your first Zoom?
About 8 weeks, I think.
Okay.
Because
I want to get everyone to hear that, yeah. Right? Because you are a man of action.
I was creating it, and I launched it before the 8 weeks were over. So I was getting feedback on my early experiences before I even completed my process with the other guy. By the way, I think I should probably be a charter member of the 4-H club.
3HQ. Are you adding another H?
The 4-H club, Hilary's heart, head, higher self.
You're so great. Okay, that's so perfect.
And your logo is a 4-leaf clover because it's a miracle of nature. It's super rare, and everybody looks for it, but not too many find it.
Oh, okay, everyone. This has been recorded. If you don't see that in the next couple of days somewhere, we have missed the mark. So,
and by the way, you know why that is such a perfect choice? Because the green color, which needs to be a green from nature, not an artificial green, right, indicates that this is natural, it's alive, and it's unique and rare.
Jim, you're already proving once again why you have been so successful. That is awesome. We will make sure that we're gonna try to end this on time, but I'm gonna get you afterward to talk more because this is really great. But here's something that I do want to ask you. So you create this online course. You've had multiple successes even before. You were playing the guitar and you were singing and you've had awards there. And I even asked you, I said, is there anything you're not good at? And I am going to say this. I'd like to know from the audience so everyone can hear, what do you really believe that, you know what, I'm not touching that one? What would that be? What haven't you shared with people that, you know what, hey, I actually have a fear here, or I'm not good at this. I'm not good enough for that. So what would that be?
I don't know, because I know that anything I put my heart to, I'm going to find a way to master it. I know how literally to go from nothing to the top 1% in a field that I choose, but I'm not going to choose a field that I know I could do intellectually, but I'm not going to have my heart and higher self in it.
Well, so, you're leading me down the path I wanted you to take, which is a very famous quote that has come out is 1 extra hour each day in your chosen field, and you'll be a national expert in that field in 5 years or less.
Yep.
I want you to explain, where did you first hear this, and how have you literally put yourself into this mindset in everything you do?
In 1972, I lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I was born and had grown up. And I was newly married. I got married in 1970, and we had a new baby at home, Jim Jr. And I was making $525 a month. And my wife had a secretarial job making $400. So between us, we're killing it, $925 a month. And I was a clerk at the Urban Renewal Agency, the Little Rock Housing Authority, Little Rock, Arkansas. And I was an assistant to a man who didn't need help. His name was Bob Moore. And Bob was bored. So you can imagine what assistant was like.
Oh, geez. Just sounds terrible.
For days on end, reading books on urban renewal, which I didn't find interesting, and waiting for him to say, hey, Jim, do this assignment. And occasionally I did. But most of the time I was doodling and goal setting and dreaming and things like that. And now remember, this is 1972, so I was 26. I'll save them the math. I'm 76 now. But at 26 years old, I've had 40 different jobs in my life, if you count throwing a newspaper route and selling donuts door to door when I was a kid and things like that. But I'd had a lot of different jobs, and I'd done okay at most of them, but I had failed at selling mutual funds and life insurance. And then I failed at selling automobiles. And then I went to work sacking groceries. And then I got the job at the housing authority. So I'm convinced that I can't sell. And my dad's a telephone repairman, and I've never been around money or people that were highly educated. And so I'm not encouraged to do really well. I'm encouraged to be a nice person, don't get in the way. And that's what I was doing. And in the next room, there's a radio, and it's playing a little short 5-minute show called Our Changing World. Is it ever? And the voice was Earl Nightingale, the Dean of Personal Motivation. And he said that day, literally, he said, if you will spend an extra hour every day studying the field you've chosen, you'll be a national expert in that field in 5 years or less. And I thought, no, that actually works. One day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, 5 years, 1,250 hours on one topic. Yeah. And the more narrow the topic, the more you would advance. There's not accounting, it's cost accounting. It's not cost accounting, it's cost accounting in the construction industry, not just the construction industry, lumber. Boom. I mean, you'd be the world's leading expert on that, or one of them, in less than 5 years. So pick a lane. Unhappily, I sure didn't want to study urban renewal. And so weeks, I'm wondering what to do. And then it hits me, I want to do what he does. Well, I didn't know what he did. I just knew it felt right to me. I wanted to help people grow, but I had two problems. I'd never given a speech, and I had nothing to say. That'll hold you back. And so I thought, well, I'll take him at his word. So for an extra hour every day, I was reading, you ready? Actual books. Think and Grow Rich. This is first
one of my personal favorites. Absolutely.
Friends and Influence People. One of the early
Another.
Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Vincent Peale. Psycho-Cybernetics, How to Be a Genius and the Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles.
You know what I love? I love these are all used. These books, Jim, look used. You really have. These are probably they've been around. I love it.
Oh, yeah. And I've still got my notes in some of them. This, my word. Wow. I haven't looked at this in forever.
What do you hold What are you holding right now?
Mental Muscles and the Spirit of Growth by Jim Cathcart. You already have every muscle you need. It's just a matter of developing them and growing them. Total fitness in just 30 minutes a day. Let's say you are, but think about the value of activity in it. Oh man, that's in my Zig Ziglar book. And
okay,
way,
so good.
At the time I wrote the goals, I weighed 200 pounds. I had never been an athlete or an academic success. So I became a fanatic at studying personal development for 5 years. And I joined the Junior Chamber of Commerce, JC's, and attended 400 meetings in 2 years after work and on weekends for free. At every meeting, I either gave a report, led a discussion, or gave a speech. And so at first I was horrible, and then I was just bad, and then I was lame, and then I was unimpressive, and then I was okay, and then I was decent, and then I got better. Okay, but 400 of them, right?
You actually saw the proof of this hour a day.
Oh, yeah.
And
overcompensated.
And here's the thing, Malcolm Gladwell says 10,000 hours get you to be an expert, right? And what you're really saying...
It's just based on a different approach to the whole thing. His is not like the Beatles he talks about in his book. They've got their 10,000 hours on stage in Hamburg, Germany, and these other places. And he tells about how that was their proving ground. Yeah. Well, mine was the JCs, those 400 meetings, and spending at least an hour every single day listening to Earl Nightingale on recordings and reading these various books and changing my circle of friends to get less time spent with the people who weren't growing and more time spent around people who were eager to grow so that we'd feed each other's growth. And sure enough, my life transformed. In a matter of 30 days, my wife said to me, why don't you figure out how to buy those Earl Nightingale recordings so we can keep them? And so I bought a $560 cassette library from Earl Nightingale when I was only making $525. Now that would be like $3,500 today. And I bought those and listened to them all the time to the point that it bothered everyone around me.
You could recite it, but wait, it would be remiss if I did not ask you this. So in today's world, there are more people wanting to be a speaker. There are organizations, and you have been honored in Toastmasters, you've been honored in National Speaker Association, which you were also president. You have had all of these, but what would you say if somebody is listening right now? We've got, entrepreneurs that are trying to scale their business 6 to 7 to 8. How do you first, as you just said, you were listening, you were joining 400 of these meetings, and you were always speaking, and you went from bad to good to great, as we have now seen. What do you suggest people do today? Is it joining one of these organizations?
There's danger in today. Here's the danger. Familiarity breeds contempt, it says, but I think familiarity breeds apathy. So when someone says something about Earl Nightingale or Tony Robbins, or name your person, people say, oh yeah, I saw one of his things on YouTube. And they think that does it. That's the same as getting a doctorate in that topic. I mean, they seriously take the posture. Oh yeah, I've heard the name, or oh yeah, I read an article, or I watched a TikTok, or I watched an entire speech, and now I get it. So I don't need to learn goal setting. I don't need to develop my listening skills. I don't need to take a course in strategic thinking. I don't need to blah, 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 because it's right here in my phone. And if I need it, I'll just tune into it. Incorrect. You today are at the spot you're at because you are a combination, you're the sum total of all of the skills, attitudes, experiences, and such that you have right now. If you want your future to be different, don't carry the same you into the future. Expand you. What does that mean? It means there's got to be a day when you decide, okay, everything else aside, today, I'm taking charge of my life. I'm going to make my life substantial. I'm going to get successful. Now, does that mean being a professional speaker? No. I mean, you could. You could also be a lumberjack. Whatever you choose, go at it with gusto and commit to reaching the top 1% of the people in that field if you love that field. If not, change fields. Well, I want to be a speaker. Like when I was in China on all these lecture tours, people would say, teacher, how do I become a great speaker? And I would say, become a great person. And when they ask you to speak, say yes. And they would look at me quizzically and I'd say, no, I'm serious. You could learn speaking techniques and become one of the greatest machines at giving a speech that ever lived, but it won't make people want to hear from you. It'll just make them want to observe you. If you become the kind of person that other people want to learn from, you can become one of the world's most successful $1 million speakers with a speech impediment, with a face that's scarred and ugly, with difficulty putting together a sentence, with name it, with physical disabilities of epic proportions. You could do that. It is not about the speaking techniques or the content of the speech and the way it's structured. It's the vehicle and the value of the message to the listener, the audience. So look at your business. If you love the business you're in, even if you don't, look at it as a vehicle for becoming more of what you're capable of being. What I say to people in my websites and on my Going Pro Experts Academy, come with me and let's discover how much more successful you could be. And so I have people coming to me who are exceptional in their field. I mean, highly successful people, multimillionaires in some cases, self-made. And I say, why are you coming to me? You obviously don't need me. Well, I don't need you for what I have done, but I need a guide like you, Guide, guide like you, to get to where I want to go next faster. And so I become their Yoda, their mentor,
In doing research on you, you do talk about the message versus the messenger. And you just so eloquently said, it's not necessarily what you're saying. It's what is the impact? What is going to be that transformation, the results that these people are going to walk away with?
And a quick comment on that. I was talking to a Toastmasters group. I was privileged to be their keynote speaker opening session of their world convention 3 times over 27 years, 1995, 2001, 2022. And in my most recent speech to them, I said, when you go into the field of speaking, there are 2 things you need to focus on, the message and the messenger. If you become excellent at crafting a message and even delivering a message, then you know what you'll have? A great speech. One great speech. If at the same time you work on you and you're cultivating the qualities of head, heart, and higher self that Hilary recommends, then you become a messenger that no matter what you speak on, it's going to be a good speech. And not just your message. Because I could get Zig Ziglar's book. I'd much rather spend time with Zig. Zig became, by the way, my good friend. And we went jogging together. We attended church together. We served on committees. I called and he advised me and I advised him on various things. On the back of this book is a picture of him with Norman Vincent Peale. Norman Vincent Peale wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. I appeared on the program with Dr. Peel at least 3 separate times, and he was in my audience and wrote me a testimonial letter. These people, many of the people I worked with were direct personal colleagues of Dale Carnegie. And you know who managed Napoleon Hill? W. Clement Stone. I worked with W. Clement Stone and served on committees with him. I've been in his private office as his personal guest. I introduced him on stage a couple of times. And
Jim, this is very important because you said Yoda. So imagine you have X amount of time to get somebody to the point where you would be proud of them on stage. Is there
not just on stage, but in a meeting, in a leadership role? Because I don't only work with speakers, I work with people like yourself that want to grow a career and be a substantial resource. So
let's use me.
Yeah.
You are my Yoda. I am not just Princess Leia, but I'm all of them combined. How would you take me from being like, all right, Jim, I want to take 3HQ, now called 4HQ. We've just done a rebrand, and I want to take it out there. How would you work with me? What would the steps? What is your framework to have me reach, as you said, the people you're working with, that higher level of success?
First thing I would do is I would go through an exercise with you to define in writing the future you in like 8 or 10 different contexts. So tell me about the future you socially, tell me about the future you physically, financially, et cetera. We get a clear picture of the future you. Second is we would go through a process that I call reputation creation, where we determine who are your publics. Like they say a movie star has a public, meaning their fans and followers. Well, who are your publics? Well, you have your customers, your colleagues, your competitors, your fans, your family. It goes on and on and on. A number of subgroups. Well, a few of those matter a lot. Some of them don't matter much. So we define what reputation do you want in their mind and in their words when you're not around and they're talking about you. And so we literally put that in writing. And then we boil that down to where you can deal with that, all of those condensed into one reputation statement that you carry with you day to day. Then we look at what one thing, if you did this for the next 5 years, would transform your world. Totally change your life for the better. What one thing? And most people can't do just one thing, but if we know what that one is, we can build all the others around it so that they feed the one.
Well, Jim, I have to tell you on this one, I just had the hair on the back of my neck go straight up because I'm like, oh, I've heard, I teach this, the one thing. It's so challenging sometimes to see our own blind spots. And I know my team is listening.
I do it too. I reach out to.
I love this and I love that. And I like all these things. Okay. But I don't want to distract you.
One more thing. We also look at where is your greatest value to the marketplace? And we interview people in the marketplace to find out. And then we take that and add it to some other information to figure out where are the greatest opportunities for Hilary right now. So you look at the greatest opportunities, real opportunities where the people afterwards say, I'm so glad I did that. The what one thing, the reputation creation, and the future you, so that all those are one photograph and you are crystal clear on exactly what you're up to. That means all of your energy flows in one direction and you get to use all of you instead of just parts.
Jim, this is so good, but I also have to, as we're winding things up, you have written a book, Mentor Minutes, and what to do when you're the speaker. Can you give us, what is the biggest takeaway from that book that we need to know?
Here are the 2 books.
I love everyone, if you're not watching this, I'm telling you, he's got this bookshelf and he keeps bringing out all these great books. This says Mentor Minutes, Reach the Top 1% in any field.
Any field. I started as a teller in a bank, and a few years later was on the executive faculty of the American Bankers Association, teaching bank presidents, and I've never been a bank president. I started as a brand new member of the National Speakers Association, having never earned more than $100 for a speech and didn't know a soul, and ended up as the president of the association, then the chairman of the board, and then was inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame, and then was given a Lifetime Achievement Award, and then the greatest honor they can give, which is the Founders Award, the CAVIT. I
need the spark notes as we're wrapping up. I need the cliff notes. What is it about this book that you're like,
this book,
hey, everyone, screaming from the mountain?
What we've been talking about, this book tells you how to do that. And it tells you in 1 minute messages, 336 1 minute messages. I know it's 1 minute because it was originally a radio broadcast. And this one, what to do when you're the speaker, is not about speaking. What? It's about being a speaker. What do you do when the program runs overtime? What do you do when the audience is seated 3 rows back instead of filling up the front row? What do you do when the lights go out? What do you do when they told you that you were going to be speaking in a normal setting and you end up in a pavilion outdoors with a microphone that's looped into a lectern on a tabletop and won't carry the sound, and it's hot and humid, and
all the things you don't think about because you're so focused on the message.
All the things that I have done over the years. The person in the audience has a medical emergency. What do you do when the building catches on fire and you're the only one with a microphone and 700 people in the audience in Washington, D.C.? What do you do when you're the speaker? This has been endorsed by Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, Dennis Waitley, on and on and on. Patricia.
We got both of these books on Amazon.
And this one, $2.99 for Kindle.
Ooh, so good.
Please leave a comment on Amazon when you're buying.
You're the speaker. You can go. You can get it. $2.99. So
and
as we
want it for free, go to free.cathcart.com and just download it.
We will have all of this in the speaker notes. But as we sign off here, and I'm going to put you on the spot here because I know you're so good at that. What is the best way to sign off when you are on stage to captivate, to make sure they remember you? Well, how do you sign off?
First off, you don't want them to remember you. You want them to remember the value of the message that you shared with them. I've had people walk up to me in an airport and say something from one of my speeches from like 10 years ago. And I say, that's me. How do you remember that? I'll never forget it. And it wasn't me because they didn't remember my name, but they saw my face and remembered that story or that point. So that's the key, is make sure your message is valuable enough to your audience that they want to know more of what you've got to say. So in a speech, bring it back together with your original idea. And if you can summarize with 1 or 2 key points that you made using the same words from earlier in your speech, in your final statement, then it brings it together beautifully. And then you take your bow and be available for selfies.
And that is the mic drop. Jim Cathcart, thank you so much for being here. And everyone, you have heard, you have been inspired, you have gotten some golden nuggets here. Let's make sure that we use them. Make sure, go to the Relaunch podcast, read the show notes, leave a 5-star review because this was so impactful. And I would be so grateful. Yes. And I want to make sure, everyone, as you go through your day, you have the 3HQ framework that you can constantly be leveraging, but make sure that you're also using our tune in process and stop tuning out, because you have this awesome opportunity for growth right now. And you have a message. You are the messenger of that, as we just heard. And I look forward to hearing what you are going to be doing from the relaunch that's taken place today. We'll see you next time. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.